On today's Success and Excuses, we have Pamela Cunningham.
Hi.
Pamela, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. By the way, I've been watching all your videos on LinkedIn. You're a really good talker.
Do you think so?
Oh God, you're a natural talker. I say natural, you obviously put a lot of work into it.
No, it's natural.
So tell us, who is Pamela? Who is you? What's it all about? What's your business? Tell us about you.
I wear quite a lot of different hats, to be fair. I'm still practicing this whole positioning that we talk about.
Yeah.
And I think when you start putting yourself out there and you try to be more visible, it's a challenge because you watch a lot of different podcasts or you watch YouTube and they're like, you need to get your positioning right. And I find out that I'm just kind of muddling my way through.
But it comes across well though.
Do you think so?
Aye.
There's been a couple of people
I was watching a podcast that I was first introduced. I knew your husband in ROSSCO for ROSSCO Tiling, so I've known him for a long time because he's quite good. He was good at getting himself out there as well. Yeah. And I think did that help grow his business by getting himself out there?
I will be honest, no.
Did it not?
No. So with Ross, he's always been in demand. He's really good at what he does.
Aye.
He's got a very sort of, he's at a finishing trade as a tailor, and you have to be good with the clients. You know, you've got to impress people, and he loves that. He's a totally he's a
perfectionist,
people pleaser, is what I like to call it. So when we then launched the academy, I said to him, you have to be on TikTok. You've got to be on social media. And I was just at him every night, every weekend we were in the academy, and it was always me being like, right, say this, right, say that, like do this, do that. And then we started uploading the bloopers. Yeah. And then people were saying from the bloopers, they were like, you two are hilarious together. And he was just like, this is what I need. But then it wasn't until I sort of got the bug and thought about doing my own thing, I actually phoned someone that I met through.
But you were in construction?
Yeah, of course I was. But I knew I wanted to be visible, and some people that I spoke to in my professional career couldn't understand it. They get a real corporate background, and they were so used to these parameters of what you can say online and what you can't say, and I could never. A lot
of companies are still like that, by the way.
I can't get my head around it. I get it, that's what you sign up to, but for me, I thought I've just got so much more to say here, and I knew I wanted to be more visible, and I phoned someone that I'd met at an event, and I said to her, I know you do marketing. She was like, you're great on social media and stuff though. And I was like, yeah, but I'm constantly pressuring Ross, and I'm there behind him. I know he can't give me that in return. I need someone to be behind me being like, do this, do that. This is what you need to do. I need that accountability. I think I'm kind of getting there now. I'm at a lot of networking events. I ask people for feedback. I'll always send people things that I'm working on and say, right, you tell me what you think. And I think, I've kind of, the last couple of weeks I've went through this journey of who can I trust?
Yeah, small business world isn't it good sometimes?
Yeah, well, I've not been stung yet, not that I know of.
Good, because that was my experience in the early days, I can assure you that.
Oh God. So yeah, I am, talking a lot on LinkedIn, but it's a full-time job.
Aye, I notice.
And you and your wife post a lot on it, and it's that consistency that you need to maintain. In the first couple of weeks, I started flying, and I was saying to Ross, I've got this impressions and I've got that, and he was just like, oh, okay. And now I'm like, I can't keep that up. Now that I'm actually working, that's the least of my worries now.
Listen, I can be quite controversial in LinkedIn with some of the posts I write, but I always write for the heart, but I try and always make sure that I word it so that I'm not really offending anyone. But I've had some really no nice messages. Some really no nice message. For example, I actually put a post on about this, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So now we run a women in leadership programme for the construction sector. Oh, the abuse that our company gets. They're like, well, why are you running it for women? What about men? No, we've got one for mixed groups and men, but this is specifically for women, to give them a safe place to talk about the challenge they face in a very male-dominated environment. The abuse, I ain't shitting you, by the way, that we get in the construction sector because this is... And you've just got block, delete. Don't even answer. The team answer them in a really professional, nice way. But I can't, because I would just want to go with it.
Yeah, and I can. I think there's people who are just never going to get it, and I posted something quite similar recently, and I thought, I'm not on Facebook myself, but you do that cross-posting. It goes out there anyway. I don't use it. And one day I thought, I'm just going to post and I'll put it out and see. And I just get this feedback. I can't think even what the guy said. I actually posted it on LinkedIn and said, I don't even know what he means by it to take offence. I just know that he's not been very supportive. But essentially those businesses, to be really transparent, those businesses that are getting business from Facebook are not my client anyway. They're not the people that are that ambitious and driven who are actually want to start working with tier ones.
They're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're on LinkedIn, which is my main platform.
They've got a different view of work and business, and I want to dive into that then a wee bit, and we will come back to other stuff. So I want to talk about the new business, and because I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think it's absolutely fantastic because we work with hundreds of construction companies, smaller construction companies, and one of the big things is making that switch between being a home improvements person to actually winning contracts. And it's a tough gig because most of them get it all wrong.
Yeah.
And they win a contract or they win a tender, and all they're doing is they're just bleeding money.
Yep.
It's almost could put them out of business. And how did it come about? I want to know, how did your idea come about in making that connection?
That was my professional job. So I was in procurement and I worked on sort of major projects. So they were anything from 600 million to 2 billion. So some of the contract values that I was dealing with could be anything from sort of 500,000. The biggest one was about 81 million. And I, obviously I've got my husband at home, and I'm saying he could never. There was actually a conflict in my professional career at one point where they said, yeah, your tilers don't want to come and tender with us because you're openly talking about your business, like you're not in company's house, so it's not your business. And I was like, well, I've worked on Ross's business with him for 10 years. It's very much a family business, and they just couldn't see it. And I said, my husband could never tender with you, not there yet. Actually doesn't have the interest. It's not the projects that you do, he wouldn't be on anyway. He does kind of high end residential and commercial. And I said, so there is a huge disparity here between companies small businesses who know these projects exist, but also where do they start? And I think what you said earlier was they win a contract and then they just bleed money. It's because when they win the contract, all they're looking at is like a bill of quantities or a pricing document of sorts. And they're just looking at a number, and they just constantly, their mind have been there with Ross, have been there, and they're thinking, well, what's that number? But is somebody else charging that? What's the going rate? Typically it should be this, it should be that. Yeah, but what does your business need to deliver
Absolutely.
that? So yeah.
And to make a profit.
To make a profit. What's the point in winning it if you actually can't deliver? It doesn't help them. You would much rather say no to them now and then go back to them in a couple of years when you're ready and still have that credibility than win the contract now and then not deliver it, and then that's you're scuppered with them for the rest of your career.
I read a post on LinkedIn, and I don't know if it was your role, but you're going to tell me if it was or wasn't. And they were talking about, like, see all the big tier ones, and you know how they put out to tender, and then they get people who they know how they work, and they know how you understand how the tier ones work, and I know how the whole process, and then the contract ends and they go right back to square one and they go through the whole process again. You think, why would you not have a preferred group of suppliers? Like, you know them, you trust them, you like them, you know what their work is like, and as you move through the tenders, you just bring on the same people. Is that? I thought it was a great idea. I'm like, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think in theory, but from a risk perspective. So if you're for example, if you're like a Balfour Beatty or a Morgan Sindall, all you're looking at is risk from the day that your client comes to you, says we've got this project kicking off. So my experience is typically pre-construction. So I would be working on the projects probably anything from 5 years before it actually kicks off. All they're looking at is, can our business deliver this without any risk to the margins or the company. So if you're then looking at the supply chain, and I was a supply chain manager for a period of time, if you're looking at your whole supply chain, you need to diversify it. So that, if you've got specifically someone like Balfour Beatty, you've got projects over the whole of the UK, if you're concentrating your supply chain in certain areas, you know, your other projects are at a massive risk.
Right.
So if you were to think about, you know, just say you've got 10 suppliers and you use them all the time, not only are you probably losing out on money or value from someone else who could be very experienced but new, you know, you're also putting a big risk into your projects because one of these suppliers might end up folding. You're wrong. I mean, it's good in theory.
I just thought it was a great idea. I thought, I never actually thought about that, because we hear it a lot. Like, companies, they win a tender and again, generally they win it and they're really struggling to make money off it. And then the next job comes up and they've got to go through the whole process again. And tendering's no easy.
No.
Like, I mean, I know, and we've been tendering for years, and it's still not easy. It's easier because we now know generally the language to use and what to say and how to say it, and the kind of numbers that we need to be looking at depending on who the customer or clients are. So you kind of learn that stuff. But I worry for people that have never done a tender and then gone a tender, because that is scary shit.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That is really scary stuff. And I suppose that's where you come in then.
Yeah.
So do you, I remember one of your videos, you don't just come in at the tendering process. What your idea is come in way before you're ready to tender.
Ideally.
I want to see what your business is. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see if you're ready to tender first. Is that fair enough?
That is. So what I've done is I've created a programme where we look at, you know, your workforce. So for example, you could have, you know, the most profitable business and then you're going to do a tender, but if you don't have the workforce there, or at least half an idea of how you're going to grow that to deliver that project, if you can't demonstrate that, then it's absolutely pointless doing the tender. It's pointless wasting that time.
Absolutely.
And something that I feel quite strongly about as well is not just tendering for everything. So if you're sitting with someone like me and we're saying, right, where is it that you want to go? You know, where are you aiming for? Who's your ideal client? If someone says to me, yeah, I really want to start working with Morgan Sindall, you know, I don't want you to start tendering with them now. You need to start smaller and climb up the supply chain, get that experience with smaller subcontracts, grow it sustainably for your benefit, but you can then also demonstrate that in your tender. You know, we've done
Here's
this
my experience. Absolutely.
So coming in at an earlier stage and looking at your business, like I said, your workforce, your accreditations is a big one. It's the amount of businesses I've spoken to recently who'll say, right, we've done our safe contractor, we've done our CHAS, you know, now we want construction line, and I'm saying, why? Oh, well, it's just everybody else has got it. You're hemorrhaging a shit ton of money for absolutely no rewards. So it's really about who are we targeting.
You'll know then, so based on your experience for working with the tier ones, then you'll know what certification you really need and what ones is kind of like, well, it's a nice to have, but it's not required. And then advise them on that then.
So there was a company that I spoke to this week. So it's an agency recruitment, and she said, I'm going to get my construction line gold. I think you need to help me, you know, it's a beast. It's a big piece of work. And I was just like, yeah, but I don't think you need it. And she looked and she was just like, what do you mean? And I said, I don't understand why you've got gold. Like, you don't need construction line golds, you just need a lower level. She's like, well, everybody else has got gold. I said, that's because they're on site. And it's like, you don't even understand the parameters of what you're buying. You've just spent £2,000 to what end? Like, what was the need? And I don't judge that person for it. She didn't know. You know, and it's that input, and it's, you would have saved that money and not have to get an accreditation that, you know, it's actually not going to benefit you any. If anything, it's just a nice shiny badge that you can put on your website, but it's not actually going to bring you in any more work, therefore you wouldn't have had to spend it. So it's just that sort of insight that I don't think that there's anybody else in my position who's sharing that. You know,
I've never heard it. When I first met you, that's how I reached out to you. I'm like, I actually love what your idea is, because I don't know anybody else that does it.
No.
You've got tendering companies that'll help you win tenders. I'll say this very loosely. Do you know what I mean? You know the ones with the tendering companies, and they cost an absolute fortune, and there's no guarantee because, as you said, a lot of these smaller companies they're just not ready.
I think as well, typically in procurement, you know, you would, or even any sort of commercial role, even like a QS, you would sort of climb the ranks, you would get experience, and then if you go out on your own, you would be a consultant for the client. And since I have left, I have been approached, and it's been such a challenge because you've got a big business there that are like, you know, I'll pay you £500 to £1,200 a day, but they want me to be sitting at my laptop all day, 9 to 5. And I'm saying to Ross, like, this is not what I left for. The money's sitting there. And I'm just like, but that's not why I left my corporate job. And, and I'm so lucky because he's like, 100%, keep going. At least you've got it to fall back on. And he's like, your fallback is somebody else's dream.
Absolutely.
And I'm appreciative of that, but I'm really getting stuck into like the reason why I left and who it is I want to help. And it's not necessarily the client. You know, I think there's definitely a piece of work for me to approach people like Balfour Beatty and say, I've now got a pool of, you know, 10, 12 small businesses that are tender ready. They're ready to work in local projects. And then, you know, they've got that direct access, so I can help them from that perspective. But I don't think I've left to then just go back to being like, I'm a procurement consultant. I really want to share what I've learned. Even this week I had another conversation with a woman, and her and her husband own a construction company. And I just felt heart sorry because they are just going through the same pains and processes of every other construction company right now.
Every other business, generally.
And even when you talk about these tender agencies, they're great at what they do.
Absolutely.
They do a lot of public sector procurement. That's not my forte. And I say to them, you know, in an ideal world, if one of my clients wants to do a public sector contract, I would just send them out to you because that's not my strong point.
It's not your thing.
Private and public are so different. With public sector, there isn't really any common sense to it.
None.
You need to know the words and you need to try and get that right scoring. And I don't. For me, I can't get with it. I was in a public procurement role and I only lasted about 7 months. I just couldn't. And it's the being in private as well is like you need something done yesterday. Being in public sector, you know, you sit and you have a meeting and then they go, we don't really know, let's just tie back in 2 weeks.
I've won a few of them.
And I'm just like, I'm not here to wait 2 weeks for an answer. Like, I'm quite an urgent person. So definitely private, and like I say, if there's someone that I know that's going to help, I'd much rather just reach out to that person and say, this is what we're trying to do, you know, I want you to meet that person. Relationships win all the time. And this is what I said to the business owner that I met this week. I said to her, I understand you're feeling a lot of pain in Public Contract Scotland. Come away from it. Like, what's your plan out with it? And she looked and she was like, I'm not really sure. She's like, I know there could be one. And I was just like 100%. And it's easier and it's more profitable. And it's not...
Public Contract Scotland is painful. A tough gig, because you're either, and I say this, you're either really dropping your pants, right, or you're not winning the work. And it's always, so for us as a business, when I go into a public tender, all the time you're having to drop your pants, right, based on what you would normally charge. But then I always think strategically, is this the right thing for our business today? And if it's no, then we just don't tender. We just don't tender. But if I kind of see where that would open a new door for me, that would open a new avenue of revenue, that would open something new experience, then I would probably go, okay, we could probably go to this amount. And it's not nice. No. Because you know you're not going to make any money.
But see, realistically as well, see when you then win that contract, you don't even want to do it.
I know.
Your motivations there, like you're probably not going to perform as well. So in public sector, there's always that drive for the lowest value. Whereas in private, there's weighted criteria, and a lot of it's social value, it's your community engagement, it's sustainability. There's a lot of things that businesses they won't be bothered with.
Smaller businesses won't even have a clue what half that stuff means.
But you know, I think these businesses should be doing something that's in proportion to their business. So some tier ones would get this big target and they'll say, right, we need to have this, you know, carbon reduction or zero waste or whatever it may be, and then they just pass it on to supply chain. And I don't love that because your targets to them are mammoth because they're so small and they need to do, and I just don't agree with that. Whereas with my clients, I said to them, you know, you're going to get to a point where someone's going to ask you about a social value impact. Let's start it now, because you would rather say we've been doing this for 3 years.
Have a plan,
we've been doing this for 3 years rather than 3 minutes. So even last night was our first sort of school careers event. So Ross and I have been going to them. Ross longer than me, to be fair, but he's been going to them for about 3 years with the academy, and I've been been to a couple of them, and it was only ever him from a trade perspective. And I'll take my hat off to him. He was always there, and he's not the most communicative, but he did what he could. And I thought more trades need to be there.
100%.
And we asked loads, and they never ever bothered. And I said to him, as soon as we get a couple of people, the momentum will pick up on LinkedIn, and everybody will want in at them. So when I set up Growth and Performance, and I set up the 2 programs, when I bring on clients, it's like a pledge to come along to these events. So last night we had some of my clients along, and it was honestly such a good laugh. There was not massive amounts of engagement. You know, it's not every child flooding over, you know, wanting to. Then we had like wallpapering set up and all that. It was just get them to do something. But there was still the small amount of people that came over were so engaged. There was this young boy, honestly, he was about your height, and he was just asking Ross so many questions about how tiles were made. Why is that bit shiny? Why is that bit rough at the back? How did it get cut like that? And that's the type of thing that Ross loves, because he's really passionate about it. And I said, see that one little person that you inspired, this was all worth it. And then there was a younger girl as well, and her mum was saying, you know, she loves painting, very into her arts and crafts. She's great at all these murals, and I said, let's talk to the painting and decorating team, because if she got that trade behind her, she could start up her own business and do these. So it's just about opening up their mindset and their mindset into what's possible when they leave school. It doesn't have to be
We're not doing
university.
a good job at it, though, aren't we? Not telling the youngsters about how good the construction industry is.
No, I don't think so.
We're not very good at it, because so we go to a lot of events for schools and things like that, and very, very rarely. You might hear some of the, you know, the 4th year boys will say, oh, I want to be a sparky or something. Yeah. But you very rarely hear them just saying, I want to get into tiling, or I want to be a painter and decorator. And I think to myself, you have any idea how much money you can actually make if you become really good at what you do? I mean, it's you can have a very, very good life and a really successful business. Yeah. But it's hard work. Yeah. And I want to go back to that with this part of the conversation now. So I want to go back to the ROSSCO early days. Yeah. So obviously you were a big part of that growth. Can you remember what that was like, those early days?
Yeah, painful. To be fair, so when Ross and I got together, he'd been tiling for like 5 years or so. So he'd done his apprenticeship and things like that, and he'd just got out on his own. And he was doing this typical like stairs and kitchen splashbacks and stuff like that. And I remember one day he said to me, yeah, I could do like bathrooms. I said, what do you mean? And his uncle was like, I don't know if it was a generational thing, because my dad was the same. Like, they could do everything. Like, my dad sometimes would just have the bathroom out of a weekend and just do the bathroom up. And his uncle was the same, and he learned from him. So Ross has done like house bills, extensions, like kitchen fits, you name it. And I says, well, what do you mean you could do full bathrooms? He was like, I've done them before. And I said, why are you not doing that? Like, there was money to be made. So within like days, I had these flyers made up. Like, I had it all over Facebook. We do full bathrooms. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, you could do it. So then he started.
Well, you said you could.
I know. And to be fair, like, that's what really took him off. Like, his bathrooms were phenomenal. And he did everything on his own. But that period of time, we were having our little girl. And he was never home, you know. And the thing with Ross is that he is such a people pleaser that to say to you that he's not going to finish your bathroom when he said he would is just can't comprehend it. So that
just shows you his ethics, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Because guess what? We've not got a great industry in terms of people confidence in us. Yeah,
and it would be, you know, I'm going to do this bathroom Monday, Friday, and then it must have been like 6 months down the line, and I'm like, what, you're not getting the Monday to Friday doesn't work. Like, you're not doing it Monday, Friday. We need to do it like Monday to Monday. And he was like, I can't have them over the weekend without a bathroom. Can't do it. I'd much rather work to the Sunday, if that may be. And there was even times where I remember it was like Christmas Eve, and his client says, should we make you a Christmas dinner? Like, that's embarrassing. And I'm just like, why are you still there? And I'm like wrapping Christmas presents and all that, and he's still out working. And then I said to him, you know, I don't think the bathroom thing's working anymore. I think you're really good at tiling. I think you should just hone down on that and just niche down on
Become
it.
an absolute expert at that.
And he did. Now, we had our business.
Can't get a bloody tiler for love of money these days.
We tried. I mean, so his business at the time was RC Tiling, and every tiler does that. Hats off to them. It's just like AC Tiling, BC Tiling, whatever it is. And then somebody else came along. They had a very similar name to him, but they just weren't the same person as Ross. And there's no judgment to either or. But the reason that people like Ross is because of who he is.
Yeah.
And I just just thought it was a huge problem. So again, he came home one day and I had like totally rebranded.
There's a wee theme coming on here.
I had totally rebranded the business. I had the flyers out. I had this like PDF done of like, I had went onto Google and got like an outline of his van that he'd bought, and I had like designed all the sign writing of the van and all that. I had the uniforms designed, you name it, and he was like, that's it, perfect. And it was obviously Rosco, but it was supposed to be like Ross and Co, because his cousin worked with him at the time, and then everybody now just calls him Rosco, and I'm
that's
like,
right, I say Rosco.
Yeah, everybody does. And you feel like we ladies, and they're like, oh, hi Rosco.
So it's all your fault now.
Yeah. But it's what, you know, it was as soon as we done that whole rebrand, the projects totally changed, you know, and it was sort of high-end commercial jobs in the city centre. It's independent luxury homes.
Yep.
You know, it's different materials as well. So, you know, we might go to certain sort of tile distributors and just pick a nice stylish design, whereas he works with interior designers, so he's working with like natural stone and marble and stuff, and they all take a different level of care.
Absolutely.
I might be totally butchering it, but there's like seals and all that need to be done, and it's just it's different. You spend a lot of money on it. It needs to be done right. So then he really honed in on that and just became an expert, and then the industry brought out these large format tiles. I don't know the size of them, but they're absolutely massive, and everybody went for them. He loves them, and he was one of the very few people in Scotland that could fit them. And at that time we had the academy as well. So that came about from trying to grow the business.
Was that your idea, the academy? I'm asking because I reckon it was, but I don't know.
It was.
I knew there was a thing going on here. Poor Ross, man.
Even more recently, I phoned him yesterday and I was like, right, I've got something new for you, and he's like, Pamela, would you give me a break? So again, we had the academy set up. We were trying to grow the business, and when we were taking on trainees, so someone who might just have come out of college or whatever it may be, they were walking out of college and they were tiling like your Barrett homes and whatever it may be, and we would take them into like maybe a sort of 100-year-old home, because at the time Ross was working on some of these lovely big West End properties and stuff like that, and they could do it. They just, some people would walk off of it, they just couldn't touch it, and we realised that because these guys are leaving college and they're tiling perfect new build sort of walls,
different ball game though.
It's so different, and you are quite literally like room by room, plot by plot, throwing them up and moving on.
Absolutely. Repetitive, same colour, same style, same.
And site life is different to what we have. You know, we need to be appreciative of our clients. You know, again, in our academy we had like we'd bought baths for every bay, and Ross was like, protect that bath, like that's Mrs. Smith's bath. And if they weren't protecting it, he'd pull them up for it. Like, you've just damaged somebody's bath, that's costing me money. And it's things like that you don't learn in college because it's not your property. So with the academy, we brought on, I think we brought through for the first year, I want to say 30 students, and that was all independently funded through them. And obviously we had built the place, and then we realised that there just wasn't any support. So then
that's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Even
because you can see the value that you can create with building that, and it's like sometimes the local councils and they just can't see what you see.
No.
Especially when we've got such a massive gap in the industry. You just think that, I mean, I've got another friend, right, he runs an academy, and it's like for people who when you buy property and do your property up, so you're teaching them all the basics like the skirting and the plumbing and kitchen fitting, basic stuff, right? The basic stuff. And I thought that's a brilliant idea, and he came up with this idea. I actually phoned him at the event we were at in CITV. I phoned him on the way back down, and I says to him, you need to go for this industry impact fund, because I thought, because I helped him, I never helped him build the business, but I helped him kind of put the ideas out what it is, and his plan in his head was people who are maybe a career transition, or they've been made unemployed, or people on the brew, or youngsters going through college, bring them in. I think it was 12 weeks, and we teach them all the basics, so they can then go into like new builds or the basic stuff, right? Basic carpentry, basic plumbing, you know, not an expert, not a specialist, but the basics, and then learn, and then they can then get taken in with bigger companies and taking, you know, ROSSCO Tiling and all that. Oh, you can tile quite a good tiler, man. Listen, we're looking for somebody, and away you go. And these people just couldn't see it. And I used to think to myself, I don't know if it's an entrepreneurial mindset or how we think, but other people don't see it, don't they? They don't see the value and the potential of what you had created.
I think, you had said earlier on that you sometimes can say things that are quite controversial. And I think this is quite controversial, but it's true nonetheless, is that the people that we deal with in the face of it are paid to be there.
Yeah.
So they don't have that same investment that we have.
Yeah.
So, for example, I phoned Employability Scotland, and I always just led with open questions. This is what we've got. How can you help people learn? Like, it's not about helping us. We realised that people needed the funding. We had the facility there, you know, so it's about helping those other people get access to a job. That's what employability does.
Absolutely. That's what it's supposed to do.
And the guy said to me, if you're asking me if we've got a pot of money for tilers, the answer's no. And I remember, like, I can be quite thick-skinned, but I remember after that phone call, phoning Ross crying, and I just said to him, like, he was rude to me because he doesn't have the answer for me. Instead of just saying, yeah, we don't have that available, like, because he didn't have the answer, he gets back up and he was rude to me. And I just thought, we're here, we're putting everything that we've got into this.
Absolutely.
And
taking all the risk.
Yeah, and other people, I'm not expecting people to bow down or just throw money at us, but it would have been, welcome for someone to say, let's have a chat about it.
Absolutely. Even just a chat, run through the numbers, run through the value. I mean, just think, right, the value having one person come off the brew.
Yeah.
Just one person, the cost versus the investment.
Yeah.
Like, they're not even comparable.
No.
And that, to me, it seems so short-sighted, and that drives me cuckoo.
Yeah.
It really drives me cuckoo.
I was working in an office in George Square, and SDS were right next door. They point blank refused to speak to me in person. I mean, we don't do in-person meetings. This was only 12 months ago. And I was just blown away by it. And I thought, that's the problem. And this is the issue as well with small businesses. They don't want to phone CITB. They don't want to phone the council.
I know.
They don't want to do it because A, they're busy during the day. But the time that they are going to take out,
answer,
no, you
ever.
need to phone this person and that person, and you need to chase it up. And this is what I am now offering to these clients, is to say, we will map it out and I'll take on that burden. Because I already know who's going to help and who's not.
You know the contacts, you know the people, you know that also the hurdles that you need to get through and how you need to pitch it. We've been working with CITB for probably 8 years now, and I've got to say, right, compared to then to now, it's like day and night. Like, it is day and night. I think the CITB have come on amazing leaps and bounds, even just 3 years ago. So, Tim Balkin, good job, because I mean, I just think that, yes, they've taken some things away, and you're kind of thinking, that hurts small businesses. I don't know if I agree, but there's still things to come out that we don't know yet. It's still, I've had a lot of high-level conversations, and we still don't really know what it's really going to look like. So we've got to hope that somewhere in there
it makes sense.
It makes somewhere in there. But wow, what a difference compared to, as I said, even 3 years ago. It felt like, as a training provider, that it was them and us. It felt like we were trying to steal for them. We're trying to steal out their pocket. And I used to think to myself, I don't get this. I don't understand. I really, really don't understand. Look, here's a programme. Here's the feedback. Like, what part of that tells you that we are up to something? But it's not like that now. Thank God. It's not like that.
See, that's obviously not a perspective that I've got, but there's a lot of negative feedback that comes from the industry that I'm always trying to combat, because I do think it's a mindset thing.
It is.
I mean, even now, the narrative on LinkedIn on apprenticeships is absolutely driving me crazy, to the point where there's been 3 posts now, or comments to posts that I've showed Ross, and I'm like, because he's like risk averse, like conflict averse, all of it. Whereas I'm a bit like, but see, because I think really.
Wouldn't you think that when you look at Ross too?
No, I know. Do you know, I actually said this the other day.
Wouldn't you think that?
Somebody said to me, oh yeah, when I met him, I thought he was quite angry. And I just thought, do you know what, that's a you problem actually, because Ross just doesn't have anger in him. I think
you're just a tough guy, but I think
you just judge his tattoos and stuff like that. He's not like
I'm covered
that at
under my
all.
nose.
Yeah. So he's not like that at all. And I remember, like, I think, like I said, there was definitely one last week, and there's been one before, and I'm like, right, what do you think of that? And he looks and he's like, don't post that. You'll make an enemy. And I'm like, but why? I said, I'm just opening up the conversation. Like, I'm just, and he's like, yeah, but they won't see it like that. And I'm just like, well, that's a them problem.
Absolutely.
He's like, Pamela,
listen, I just do it.
Yeah, he's like, you're just starting out. And he was like, just don't.
And by the way, I get that. You know, you kind of think, so particularly somebody who's risk averse, they're all, like my wife, same. I'm saying, right, and I'll tell her this is what I'm going, she says, she'll be like, no, don't post that. no, don't post that. I don't post that. I'm like, why? That's how I feel. So I know what you mean, but sometimes
I think relationships need that. They need that balance.
100%.
So yeah, with the likes of employability and stuff like that, nobody wanted to help. They couldn't see the value in it. And then
so the academy just went away?
Well, it's temporarily away, yeah.
Aye.
So the lease came up on it. We were approached about delivering the apprenticeship. So as it stands, all the colleges have done away with tiling. So as it stands, nobody can learn tiling in Scotland. You would need to go to Birmingham.
Wow.
So when they came to us and said, right, you know, would you deliver it? The numbers were terrible. So they needed
I could imagine.
They needed Ross to be there full time, and it just wasn't financially viable. So we had to make that decision to temporarily close it down, but it's so that we can relocate.
Yep.
But you know, we don't want to relocate until we know that the right stakeholders are involved. For example, I put a lot of pressure on the suppliers. So see the likes of tile distributors, BAL, like, if you don't invest, you still get big profit margins. If you don't invest, you won't have a supply chain
at all.
So what?
I mean, it's not the new. It's not 3 years. It's 5, 10 and 15 years down the line when all the ROSSCOs have all retired and no idea anywhere, and there's nobody there to fill the gap.
Yeah, and then
they're going to have to pay through the nose.
Yeah, and I've had them in the academy and said to them, like, if you don't invest in this, you won't have a supply chain. And then okay, we'll take it to this person, then they name drop a few people, and then they just go off into Neverland and we never hear from them again. Meanwhile, we've got all the overheads, and I thought, let's just take it down. We're talking to the right people at CITB and the colleges and stuff like that now, and I think we need to invest a bit of time having the right conversations and getting the right people. We learned a lot, you know, we can't do it on our own.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely things are still progressing in that way, but for now we are focusing on just growing the tiling business. So we have kind of went throughout the years, we kind of go from having maybe 4 or 5 people, and then it always ends up coming back down. So more recently we had John come through the academy. So I remember when he was on the academy, Ross was like phoning me and he was like, this guy's like me, he thinks like me, he acts like me, like I can see it in him. And I was like, give him a job. Like, no, just hire him. And then very quickly John came on board, and now he's a supervisor, and it's good. Like he was taught by Ross, so he knows exactly.
Yeah, he gets it.
But in the same respect, he's got a lot of site experience from a previous role. So when it comes to health and safety, and when it comes to like how guys should be on site, you know, you should be telling, because he used to say to Ross, you should be getting him to do this, him to do that, whereas Ross is like constantly got his head down it, so he would just do it. It's quicker for Ross to do it. That's just the way he thinks, whereas John would be like, no, like, you go do something else, he'll do this, he'll do that,
He'll learn one day.
He's getting better now, to be fair.
Oh no, I delegate now. I delegate.
I think I would say the last 3 months, you know, things have got a lot better, and he's got maybe 3 or 4 jobs running at any time, and he kind of goes between them. And I remember the first day he phoned me, he's like, Pam, I've been in this van all day, like, I'm doing quotes in the van, he's like, because you've got the office in the house, and I know if I come home, he was like, you'll sit and annoy me. He's like, so I'm stuck in this van. And I was like, just go and like position yourself on a job and just work from there. I said, and then that way, if you want to go help with something, go do this and go do, like, be flexible, but the business doesn't need you. Like, doesn't need you to be working, but at least you can tap into it if you need to. So that's kind of
give him a bit of hand here,
because he has a really good working environment. You know, the guys are all very happy, and there's a lot of flexibility there. And you know, even Ross now is learning that journey of people management. And I had another conversation with a business owner this week, and they were saying it's the hardest part, and you think it's the contracts.
Easy, the hardest part is people.
Yeah, and you think it's the clients, and then you realise you get this team of people, and they're all different. None are worse off than the other. They're just different.
Aye.
They just work differently. They think differently, and you're sitting.
And they don't think like you
Yeah.
was a business owner.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Well, we're quite lucky because all our senior leadership team are all ex-business owners, so they actually get it. So, which is really good, you know, in terms of how they think, how they act. So we're really, really lucky. But some of the other staff don't. They've only ever been employees, and they don't get the. Because I always say, right, they're 17 years now, but we're still a family business. Like we're a family, but we treat people like family. Like we actually speak to people. If one of your staff came to me tomorrow and said, you know, James, I'm in trouble. I've not paid my mortgage, or something's happened, or a big bill's come up, my car's broke down, or could you give me a couple of grand, you know, 5 grand, 3? Aye, no worries.
Yeah.
Aye, no worries. That's how I want to be as a business owner, where I'm going to take care of my employees. I want them to feel that they're part of something, because then hopefully they do the same for you, but unfortunately not everybody's like that.
You need to learn, don't you? Unfortunately, you need to sift through the...
So listen, what's next, Pamela? What's next for you, first of all? So tell me what that looks like. What does the future look like for you?
I think in the short term, you know, I've onboarded my first clients onto the 2 programs that I've got. So that's been a learning curve through this funding, and you know, you end up with clients tied up in funding, and then before you know it, CITB changed the rules, and then your cash flows.
We were talking about that before, yeah.
So I've had to
throw you a real curveball, because the businesses you want to help generally don't have 2 or 3 grand to invest, and that's why. What you offer is, look, here's what I can do. I will help you get the funding. I'll take all that pain away for you. And then all of a sudden...
I know, it's like, that doesn't exist anymore.
It does to the end of the month.
Yeah, but then see, I'm at a point now as well, and I'm like, what, like, if that's going to take a while, like, it's a bit of urgency for me, and I'm thinking if there's a business that came to me this week, and I was like, let's just... forget about it. Let's just look ahead and plan how you're going to use that employer's network. By the way,
it is much better.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because the company, they pay you direct.
Yeah.
So they pay you direct.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a lot better than having to chase money.
Yeah. Well, I think as well it might be different for me because I'm not on the training provider network.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to be on that at this present time. Not sure why. So I'm having that conversation.
Just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Just keep pushing. That's what I say, because if you listen to Tim Balkin and Deborah Madden, and you were at the event that we were at just a few weeks ago, their vision is to have, you would be considered a specialist training business organisation, whether it's the tiling or whether it's the services you provide. That's called a specialist. So how I've been told, and I had a conversation just a few weeks ago with the person that runs Employee Network. We'll go Employee Network first, then we'll go to training provider. Employee Network is they're getting all the companies that they've been with them, and we're getting them onboarded, and then they're going to go to the specialist training provider. And then the training provider network is the same. So you've got Employee Network, and then Training Provider Network. Again, what they're doing is they're going through all the ATOs, so the approved training organisations, first, and getting them on, and then it'll be the specialist training providers like yours, the ROSSCOs, the whole thing. Will be next. Now I'm told it'll be November.
Right.
And it should all be up and running and ready to go. And I'm also told that it's going to be much easier to access the funds for the right type of training.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be a lot easier, less hassle. So basically you would go to, an example would be Joe Blogg's building, right? Small building company, small bricky company, whatever, and you'd go to them and say, look, here's what I'm bringing. Oh, really fancy that. And then you would just contact her, say, who's your advisor? Oh, I don't know, I'll find it for you. Find out who the advisor is, phone the advisor, send an email saying, by the way, Joe Blogs is what I do this course, and then it's all taken care of. So they actually take care of it, and then they just say, right, then what happens is they'll phone you, the CITB will phone you for Petersburgh, and they'll say, hi Pamela, listen, we've got Joe Blogs building, they're going to attend you. What's the start date? What's the total cost of the programme? Perfect, right, and that's it. And then on the start date, you get paid.
Yeah,
So the
I
day
find
the
that
programme
so hard to
starts.
believe. I don't. It sounds too good.
Well, it's working for us so far because we've been Employee Network now since February. And it's working for us so far. It's really, really good. Has its teething problems. Because I thought Skills and Training Fund was quite a toughie.
Yeah.
That was quite a tough gig, that. You know, getting on the wording right and making sure, you know, that was a tough gig, filling out those application forms. But I'm hoping, based on everything I've been told, that it's going to be a lot easier. Particularly, and all they want to see is value.
Do we know yet what the cap is for it?
Do you know there isn't a cap, right? Some people will say there's 50. It's based on location.
Right.
Right. So every location will have a different cap. Now, the only reason there was a cap was because of the Skills and Training Fund.
Right.
Right. So I don't know if you remember, Skills and Training Fund used to be once a year, and it was twice a year. Now it's going away. Right. So what they're basically saying is this cap is only there because they were spending so much money for both funds. So when that goes away, I'm told that these caps will potentially be removed, and it'll be based on the company size again.
Right, okay.
So you see the way the STF was done?
Yeah.
It'll be based on that.
That's not too bad then.
Aye. So that's what I'm told.
I still think getting 70% funding is great.
Absolutely. It's
Like,
fantastic.
I still think it's a good thing, and I still think people should be using it and accessing it. We should still be talking a bit more about the fact that it's actually there and what you could use it for.
People don't even know.
They don't
I know.
So I think I'm hoping that, you know, we can get into the swing of it. But that's what we've started doing so far is those two programmes. There is some sort of ad hoc traditional consultancy that I do, and then right now what I am really excited about is our new skilled trades network. So
That's right, I've seen that. Yeah.
So that's something.
Tell us about that then. Come on.
It's another idea.
Get a pitch.
So when we had the academy, I was always doing these different things for tilers, and they always let me down. And I remember Ross at one point was just like, "When are you going to give up? Like, they're not interested." And there was one, we had this big trade day and we had all the suppliers there, and it was great. And I remember saying to Ross, like, you need to go pick up the buffet. And he was like, what you talking about? I was like, I've ordered a buffet. I was like, and he came in and it was like, I want to say like 200 quid or whatever. And he threw it down. It was all these like wee rolls and all that. And he was like, that rolls and sausage would have been fine, Pamela. He was like, what have you done all this for? And I was like, I just wanted to make a big effort for it. And he was just like, people are not interested though. And I was like, but they should be, because all they do is talk, moan. That's all they do online is moan. So why are they not here? I don't understand. And then again, that was one of those other expenses that just never really came to fruition. So when I started Growth and Performance, I thought one of the big things that I want to do is bring tradespeople together. But it's not just about sitting around the table and having a moan, or, you know, I don't like, you know, swapping leads or whatever it may be. You know, I want it to be, right, James, you are thinking about an apprentice. You want to know what funding you can get for it. You don't have anybody.
So it's almost like an advice to come along, and they also, as well as the networking, they're also getting advice on what's there, what it looks like.
So
how we can help.
CITB, the local councils, they'll be there, and they'll be there every month. And I want, in an ideal world, when that tradesperson is on site and they have that idea or they think about it, that they can go, okay, I'll get that sorted at the next event, at the next meeting, because I know that they'll be there. So you're building that relationship. And instead of feeling that you need to go and phone lots of different people, you know that your person is there. And if, at worst case, they'll say, that's not my remit, but I'll get somebody to contact you. And it takes away that chasing that I had to do for quite a long time at the academy. So we had, basically, I said, you know, this is such a good initiative. Tradespeople shouldn't have to pay for it. So I contacted a couple of the local authorities, and they've had a bit of to and fro as to who's going to pay for it or not. And even though it ticks a lot of their boxes, they've come back and been like, yeah, we can't fund it.
Don't see the value again.
Actually, what they did do, there's a really good guy at North Lanarkshire who said to me, you know, we can't help, but these people can. So yesterday I went along to South Lanarkshire College, which frustratingly I have contacted to no end all through the academy, and they'd never get back to me, but they've had a whole new restructure.
Right.
And I was just so inspired yesterday by the people that I spoke to, and they were just like, they said, we can't keep going if we don't see the employers. We've got these amazing facilities, and they gave me a tour and I was blown away by some of the stuff that they've got. And they were like, these facilities need to be put to use. They said, so if we can get in front of employers, like we can start to change what we're doing. We can make it fit for purpose.
Yeah.
So they've
Listen
seen
to
it.
what their problems are,
Yeah.
what they need, and then make it suit.
In South Lanarkshire College, they've got access to their own funding. They've got access to employability themselves. They've got lots of stuff that they can also input and share. And then they were just saying, you know, we are happy to give you the space. They're like, we have it. It's there. Use it. Whereas another college were like, you know, we've got the space, but it would be like £150 a session, and then you probably couldn't invite this type of person or that type. And I thought, why not? They said that independent training providers, you know, it's a conflict of interest for us. I said, you're a college. You're a college, we can't get past you. Can't see past you. It doesn't matter if you're an OVO training group or the energy training centre. It doesn't matter how good you are. The colleges are there. They just they get it. So for me, independent training centres need to be a part of the skilled trades network as far as I'm concerned. So they were very much involved, keen to be involved. So that was really exciting yesterday, and we're hoping to have our first meeting in September. So as soon as I get that going, I'll be thrilled, because I think just a couple of meetings, and again, it's that momentum. You know, get people talking about it on LinkedIn. We're going to have some clients there as well. So I know CCG have agreed to come along. We'll have some housing associations. So essentially, when there's a trade there and they say, right, I'm going to get employability to give me a person, then I'll get an apprenticeship, and then I'll get some funding, and then all I need now is revenue. So then they can go to the likes of CCG or Balfour's or you know, whoever it may be. And there's a couple of businesses in my network as well that I'm really proud to bring along, because they're joiners, and the one that I'm thinking about specific, they're a joinery company, and they turn over like 6 million. And if you've got a tradesperson who on average is probably turning over in a really good year 500k, 6 million is their next step. They're going to be inspired by these guys, not Balfour's. Not somebody from Balfour's,
because it's too far in the distance, isn't it?
Not somebody who's been paid to be there. You know, it's not their real business. These guys have lived it and they've done it.
And still living it.
And they're still living it, and they're figuring it out as they go. So I want to make those connections where I can say, these guys are just a couple of years ahead of you. Connect with them. And
I love that.
I think
brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. Amazing. Right, we're getting near the end. I ask all my guests this: your top 3 pieces of advice in life and business. If you were giving somebody 3 pieces of advice, just a young person or somebody looking to get into business or whatever it is, what's your top 3 pieces of advice?
My first one is urgency. I think people who just end up airy-fairying around.
And you've definitely got urgency, that's for sure.
I do have it. It's definitely urgency. I think if you have an idea, it'll only ever be an idea unless you actually do something about it. And the quicker in which really you act, the quicker it's either going to be successful or it's not. And even if it's not, you've still learnt from it.
Absolutely.
I think another one's relationships. It's not always what you know, and you know, we, especially when I was growing up, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I stand firm by that, and a positive mindset. I think that if you know someone who's really well connected, you don't need to use it to your advantage or exploit it, but you could certainly connect with them, engage with them, and learn from them, and grow with them. And then I think the last one is, you know, for a young person in particular, I felt a lot of pressure growing up to pick a path. I have had lots of different jobs, and I still have friends that
careers.
Even when I started this business, they were like, there we go. I'm just like, well, you know, I'd much rather, if it wasn't for all these jobs that I've done, I wouldn't be who I am now. But you know, I'm 31, and I'm saying that when I was 16, 17, 21, I felt like such a disappointment, and I felt like I wasn't able just to figure it out. And I think even yesterday, when I was speaking to some of the kids yesterday, I was saying, you know, I don't need to know what it is you want to be when you grow up, but what do you enjoy doing now?
That's the key, innit? Absolutely.
Just do what you're happy doing now.
I've started in construction, left the construction, came back to construction. I've been in oil and gas, I've been in semi-fab, I've been in sales, none today with construction, because you just don't know that. And I think what you say there is really, really key. It's just go and try it, because you don't know. It's as you said, it's the people that have great ideas and then do nothing about it. That's where the regret really comes in it. And it's just getting out there and doing your thing. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, Pamela. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And just you keep doing your LinkedIn, because I'm loving your posts. And, you know, how do people get in contact with you? It will all be on the podcast. All your details will be there as well.
I've got Instagram, which is at Growth and Performance, and then LinkedIn's probably the better one.
LinkedIn's your big platform. That's where you need to be.
Yeah, that's where all my advice is.
Yeah, that's where our advice is, by the way. Listen, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for coming along. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.